and I was on my own, and I remember that night, I was doom scrolling the coronavirus stuff, and it's like, world shuts down, economy crashes, and I remember thinking, I'm gonna need to go drive an Amazon delivery truck, or I'm gonna go work at Aldi, like Aldi was hiring. I gotta go to the grocery store, but this dream is over.
Hey folks, I'm Brooks Derrick, and this is A Lawyer, His Friends, and Food. A show about local business owners, their journeys, and the thing that brings people closer together, food. On today's episode, we sit down at Kaffeine Coffee Shop and Roastery with Brian Knox to discuss how he started and built B Knox Photography during the early months of the coronavirus pandemic. Steve and Debbie Goss opened Kaffeine Coffee Shop and Roastery in 2019 in the heart of downtown Simpsonville. It was one of the first businesses to open in the gorgeous renovation of the historic Burdette Central Building. They serve amazing coffee, and as you will see during our interview with Brian Knox, some of the most delicious pastries I've ever eaten. So who is Brian Knox, and how did he become one of the most sought-after lifestyle and action photographers in Greenville? Well, let's find out.
So where are you from?
From Simpsonville, South Carolina. From right here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's my hometown, man.
Were you born here?
Yes.
Grew up here?
Yeah.
What was your family like?
Family life was good.
Photographers?
My dad, I remember my dad always being the guy who would be called upon to do photography for the church, for events, things like that. Like he wasn't, he wasn't a professional. He was an optometrist here in town, and but he always had a film camera around, and when we would travel, he would have a camera and stuff. So I remember being at events and seeing him like squatting down at the front of the event and like snapping photos and stuff. So
Yes. Right out with your stand.
yes. Oh, you are jealous of that hot cocoa.
Look at that thing.
Everybody hates, but they're actually jealous. Everybody hates, but they're actually jealous.
The best is it's gonna get,
I
hopefully
know.
it gets on your
Yes,
nose.
napkins.
And I
We need some napkins.
just happen to have some
Awesome,
napkins
well
for you, Saya. Bam. So your dad, do you have any partners in his business or anything like that?
No, he was a optometrist here on Main Street. Just had
Okay.
a little practice and was here in Greenville. He took on partners later in my life. I was probably like 15 or so, and then he got started to build a team and stuff
Yep.
like that. So
It's a little entrepreneur
Yeah,
blood in your veins, I guess.
yeah, he
Yep.
definitely was.
Yep. So did you go to Hillcrest?
Hillcrest, yeah.
Hillcrest.
How'd you know? There's no clean way to drink this, right?
No,
here.
you're screwed.
I hate you guys.
Oh man, you got to just go all in right in the camera, man. That's awesome.
There's no cameras here right now.
That's
Actually.
right. That's right.
So
Just
yeah,
dig in.
Hillcrest.
And when'd you finish there?
92 through 96, man. Class of 96.
96.
Feels
I'm 93
super old.
at
Okay.
Malden.
93 at Malden. All right.
Yeah?
Yep.
And then you went to Clemson, right? Is that
Yes, sir. Clemson after that.
all right?
Yep. Was Kevin Garnett at Malden at all?
Yeah.
You were
Yeah,
there
I
in
was
the
there.
halls?
Yeah, in the halls.
Okay.
Yes, he was there. He was a freshman when I was a junior.
Okay.
And I played basketball. I was not good.
Okay.
But I was on the team.
On the team?
Yes, for a period of time until it conflicted with soccer, and then I
Okay.
had to not play. but
Soccer won out.
Soccer went out. Yeah. So what was Clemson like for you? What'd you study there?
I started in engineering, mechanical
Yep.
engineering. I was 18. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I think I just picked a major. Just picked one. And mechanical engineering was super hard, and the math was difficult. And I mostly wanted to have a...
Hang on.
Yep. Please.
You have something on your nose.
Dude, thank you.
On the side there.
Where? Is it gone?
Yeah, it's like a little piece of skin.
Lord. This is all
You're welcome,
good.
Brian Knox. You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you. Clear?
Yep, you're clear.
Be honest.
You're clear.
Clear?
The
Partially?
caves are clear.
Caves are clear.
If a booger jumps out of mine, you got to tell me, okay?
I got you. So Clemson, started in engineering. Was told that was kind of the path to financial security. Get a good degree, get a good job. So I was doing all that stuff. I was ready to party and have a good time for my Clemson, for my college career. So that lasted one semester.
Engineering, partying, sometimes conflict.
So those didn't work.
Right, okay.
So, After one semester, then I switched my major to business, just business management.
Right.
Much easier. And yeah, so then I was in business and graduated with a business management degree. But yeah, college was fun, and first time away from home and having a good time and stuff like that. So
Lots of fun.
yeah.
And so when you graduated from Clemson, what's your first job?
First job, man, was in logistics.
Okay.
It was, I was in the logistics department or the trucking department of a company that bought and sold lumber and plywood.
Okay.
So my whole job was just to ship building materials from point A to point B. And I had a list of 150 truck lines that I would call and say, hey, I got a load in Commerce, Georgia that needs to get to Clarksville, Tennessee or whatever. Do you want to take it and negotiate the rate and all that stuff? So.
All right. Was that a local company here?
It was here in Greenville, yes. Yep.
My parents my mom does something similar to that, not with lumber, but with like grocery products. So she buys and sells, she calls herself a diverter. So she's like, she will buy the product herself and then find a buyer for the product, then find a truck.
Gotcha.
So that's what similar to what you would be doing back then.
Yep.
So that's definitely getting you ready for a business in photography, right?
Yeah. Yeah, not at all.
So that's a local company?
Yes, sir.
What's the name of that company?
It's now Guardian Industries or Guardian Building Products. It's kind of gone through a few different name changes and things.
And where do you go from there? What's your next kind of step?
Oh man, so I got married to my wife Jen in 2002. So I graduated college 2000, married in 2002. My wife was from South Dakota, farmer's daughter, and so we started having this dream of moving back to the Midwest to the farm that she grew up on and working with her parents on the farm. So
I like that dream.
Yeah. So in 2004, we did that. So in 2004, I quit that logistics job, moved to South Dakota. I worked in a cabinet factory. I worked on the farm, worked for the telephone company. Just at that point, it was mostly inside sales, customer service jobs.
Right.
Set our careers back a fair amount because we went from we'd at least gotten onto the corporate track,
right?
As after we graduated college, and then moved to a rural setting. And
did you meet her at Clemson?
So I met her at church. After we were both totally done with college.
Okay.
So met her at church.
And you met her locally in Greenville?
Yeah, it was called Mount Zion Christian Fellowship at the time. I think it's Bridgeway, or I don't know. It's changed a lot too. So.
Now look at this joker.
Now you're jealous.
Yes.
Enjoy.
I'm happy I get to watch you eat that.
Yes.
And
this is fantastic.
the polite way to do it. That's a heck of a croissant.
Yeah. I asked them. I came here a couple of days ago and had this on a whim, and I thought it was going to be crappy. Like lots of sandwiches at places like this can just sit in the kind of the box.
Yeah.
And I got it, and it tastes like that they have taken the croissant and put butter on it and grilled it. But I asked them, and they haven't done that. It's just probably 3 sticks in each top and the bottom of just the bread itself.
That's why
and it's made fresh.
That's why it's good, Brooks.
That's exactly right.
How is it?
It's dynamite.
Steamy goodness.
Everything I wanted.
Everything you wanted? Look at that, man. Jeez. Look, you got the egg coming out on this side. Look at that. It's like a commercial.
It is so good. Just so freaking good. If I made this at home, I would be bragging and photographing it.
Oh, totally. Yes.
But not photographing it well, right? So this was the hard part about eating and interviewing, right?
Yes. So we were in South Dakota. So, all right.
You're working just kind of, sounds like odd jobs around the way.
Yep. I mean, had a stable job.
Do you have a camera at this point in time yet?
Yeah. So I got a camera in 2004.
Okay.
And that, I would say in South Dakota is where I really started to get some new views and new vistas.
Right.
See new things. My father-in-law's farm truck, hay bales, stuff I hadn't seen. So I definitely started to get into photography more.
This is your
there.
Olympus, right?
Yeah, the Olympus. How in the heck did you dig that up? How did you dig up that fact? Are you in the CIA?
That's right.
Holy cow.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
I have read and listened to a lot about you.
Jeez. So, yeah. How many megapixels is that camera?
3.2.
God.
Am I right?
Yeah, I think so. This guy. Oh my God. So, yep, the Olympus with the little screen on the back that was like roughly that big.
Right.
But yeah, I took my camera everywhere, and I would take it with me anytime we traveled. If we went to a nearby city for a anniversary getaway, for the events there in the country, you know, just whatever was going on, I was taking the camera. So yeah, and then in those days, I would come home from the event and I would sort through my pictures, and I would find the ones that I liked, and then I would send out an email blast to mainly my mom and dad, but then my sister, and then like maybe a work friend or two who wanted to see like what was going on in South Dakota.
Back then it was still like...
It was dial up, yes, yeah, yep. Hit attach, and then like go take a shower, do whatever, but it was like a huge process.
Right.
And I would just pretty much write my caption in the email. So it'd be like, photo 1, you know, eating a croissant, or
Yes.
eating a croissant 2.
Delicious croissant.
Yeah, exactly. So, man, I did that, and then, yeah, from there started to get some gigs in the family photography realm, which isn't really where I've ended up, but I think that's kind of where a lot of people start. So,
And so you go from... When do y'all leave San Diego? When is that? I'm not San Diego.
yes.
When I was reading all the stuff about you, I kept seeing SD, and
Oh,
in
yeah.
my mind I kept
Yes,
saying
you were
San
reading-
Diego,
yep, I hear
but
you.
I was not. It was South Dakota.
Man, you were way in the archives.
Yes. When did y'all leave South Dakota?
So, it's pretty rural, and we were kind of like missing the city.
Right.
So by 2000,
The Midwest dream from before is like, maybe then this is a little too dreamy.
It was romanticized a little bit. It was good. I don't regret it. Like, it was
Right.
an awesome period. But by 2006, we were ready to get back towards a city of some sort.
Right.
Excuse me. So at that point, we went to St. Cloud, Minnesota. And then the next...
Why Minnesota? What was the pull there?
Again, we just picked a city on the map. It was like 2.5 hours away from
No shit, that's
her
fucking
parents. It wasn't quite to the Twin Cities, which are like the big. So we picked it, and we just basically up and moved. I had found a job there
Right.
in trucking and logistics, and we would end up being there from 2006 until late 2013.
Okay.
So.
And are y'all starting a family up there, or are y'all still just...
Yeah, we had both daughters in St. Cloud, Minnesota.
Okay.
So yeah, 2009 and 2012 had daughters.
And what brings you... Y'all go from there to here, right? Is that
yes,
right?
Yep.
What
So
brought y'all back?
We were tired of the cold. The winters are pretty brutal up there. I mean, just long.
That's what I've read on the internet. It's pretty
Yes.
cold up there.
Yes. Long, cold. I mean, isolated. You know, it's dark. It gets darker earlier, and it's dark in the mornings. And but primarily the winter was kind of getting old after 7 of them or 6
Right.
of them. And then we now had kids, and we weren't near her parents or my parents. So we were just kind of raising them on our own, which is challenging. It's really
Yes.
helpful if you have some family support.
Yeah.
And one day we were just thinking, like, just because we moved here doesn't mean that we have to stay here. And it ended up that the company I was working for,
It's
Anderson,
kind of a crazy revelation, right? You're
Yes.
like, wait a minute. We're
Yes.
here, but we don't
Yes.
have to stay here.
Yeah. We're not stuck here. So then the company I was working for ended up opening a sales office in Greenville, South Carolina.
When I was looking at this stuff the other night, and I was thinking, is that the same company?
Yeah, it was
But
nuts.
that's crazy.
It was nuts, yeah. So I was always in sales or customer service, and then they started opening up these sales branches. And so I had to apply for a job and kind of go through the process to become a freight sales rep or a trucking sales rep in Greenville, and went through that interview, and they're like, yeah, you got it. But that provided the seamless move in terms of career for me, at least, to go from Minnesota here to
Back
South
home.
Carolina and still have a salary and benefits and whatever.
No,
So
that takes the risk out of the move, right?
it did.
boom.
It did. Yeah. So yeah, came here in 13.
So you come here at 13, you're working this, the logistics, I guess it's a similar job.
It was.
From the one you first left here?
It was pretty similar.
Yeah.
I was on the other side of it, in that I was trying to get freight or material for us to haul on the trucks. So I was with Anderson Trucking Company, and we were trying to find customers who might need to ship Trex decking or whatever. Hey, well, we can haul your Trex decking from Minneapolis to Green Bay or whatever.
So along this journey, you've gone from, you got what, 2004, 2006, you buy this the Olympus, and you're going through this process. How are you still doing that kind of thing about taking the pictures with the family, going on trips and sending these emails, or how is that how are you
getting them?
You got this one track of work, benefits, salary. Are you dabbling at all? Are you doing any kind of I'll take your picture for $50 or whatever along the way?
Absolutely. Yep,
and where does that kind of start? Does that start in Minnesota?
So, it really started to take off in Minnesota. My sister-in-law, Amy, had a great friend who was already in St. Cloud that they knew. They already knew each other prior. And so we kind of had a built-in friend once we moved to St. Cloud. And so I started with that lady's headshots, and then they adopted a young daughter. And so then it was like, can you come take pictures of our daughter just out at the park or whatever?
Right.
And so we did that. And it was like $70 or whatever.
That's awesome.
So
that gives you a little bit of
Yes. Yeah. Yep. And I was nervous. I mean, I was like, I felt like I was decent with the camera and stuff, but I can still remember the anxiety of okay, I'm gonna go take her headshots. I don't really know what to do exactly, but I think I see a lot of stone walls in headshots, so I'm gonna throw her, whatever, have her on a stone wall, and I mean, you're just totally winging it, or preparing a little bit, but then getting out there and just trying it.
Yeah.
And I think I remember, with some of those first ones, I was still trying to get the portfolio going and hey, I'll come out and do it for free.
Of course.
Which is also sort of taking the pressure off of you if you're doing it for free. It's not a good place to stay, I would say, but it's a good place to start.
Hard to make a living.
Very hard to make a living. Yeah. So, well said. So it can become a crutch because then you're not really on the hook to do well.
Right.
But I remember after the first headshot session, us standing in the trees where we had done these headshots, and her getting out her checkbook and writing me a check or whatever.
That's cool.
And I was it's just one of those moments that stuck with me because she didn't have to do that, but she did. And but yeah, I was doing family stuff and just
that first check is pretty neat, a pretty
Yes.
neat memory.
Yes.
Go volunteering, get a little money. You're like, you can do something like this. In the legal space, I tell younger lawyers you try not to do anything for free.
Yeah.
Unless you are picking the client, right? You don't want the client
Yes.
to pick you.
Yes.
You're gonna do something free. You want to pick the thing you're gonna do for free.
Yeah. It's one of those challenges. It's the first step that everyone takes, and you got to do, at least in photography, I feel like you do free work or spec work.
Right.
It just needs to be targeted and intentional and on your terms, sort of like you're saying.
Yeah, that's exactly right. On your terms, that's a good way to say it.
Yeah. So,
there's going to be some good lighting today. A good friend. Hey, let's now at your stage of your career, now you'd be like, hey, I got some good lighting this morning. It's going to be a great sunrise. I feel like let's go meet.
Yeah.
You can do some running or whatever, and I'll take some photos of you.
Exactly.
All right, so you come, you're working in. How about say working in Anderson? You're working in trucking down here. You have how many? You have two.
We had our two daughters.
Two daughters. Okay. And you are. This is 2013, 2014, 2015.
Yep.
How is the photography side hustle in today's terms?
Yes.
What did you call it back then? Was it called a side hustle back then?
I don't know. What
I
did
don't
we call
remember.
it? Fractional job, part-time job.
Part-time job.
So,
hobby that I get paid for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how does that? How much time is that taking up out of your life, or how is that kind of growing?
Oh, that's a good question. I remember it the photography wasn't taking off because I had this fixed perception of photography as family photography. It's just families, you know, in the green with the field and the flowers and then the little kids and the
sun coming through.
Yes, exactly, and the kiss and like all of that,
That's right.
all those
things. Yes. Hold your hand like this. The sun's going to come through. It'll be perfect.
That was in my mind, just what it was. Like it was toddlers and families,
and
maybe maternity or whatever. And I didn't deep down like want to shoot that really. So I wasn't selling or marketing or really doing anything out loud or public facing that was showing. I just had this kind of like internal conflict of like, I know I love the camera, I know I love taking pictures, composing, working with lighting, but man, do I get nervous and anxious when there's a family of 4 and they're looking at me for direction. Like, so there was just this terrible internal conflict to where it wasn't really, it was just like stalemated. It was just kind of like, you know, at an impasse.
You're like, I'm trying to get the ISO right here. Can y'all please calm down?
Exactly.
Sit still, please.
I cannot make a joke while I'm making my settings. I mean, it's a lot. It is a lot. And so it really wasn't until I started to understand that there were other avenues of photography, like commercial photography, that I could go and pursue the art and the craft, but not have to be in the family realm or the
What made that
traditional-
trick? What was the event or whatever? What go? Blah blah blah. Can't speak here. What made you go? Oh, I can take pictures of those people, and they might buy them. What was that? What was that flip?
I'm not like I can't pinpoint that down to a specific event, or a specific customer. But I know that I would often, like, just for example, go to, let's just say like the farmer's market or whatever, and then there'd be a performer or a band or whatever, and I would be like, I'm gonna take some really cool pictures of this band and like try to get some sweet angle on the guitar or whatever, and then I'd like take down, you know, in those days maybe it was the email address or eventually their Instagram handle or something. I'd take that down, and then I would just shoot them like 5 free photos.
Oh, that's good.
So I started, and that's just like one example, but that was what was grabbing me more, was like people doing their craft, doing their art.
In real life.
In real life, doing what they do, and then being like, okay, let me just shoot that and try to shoot it in an artistic way, and then contribute to their lives by giving it. So I think there I was maybe starting to get a handle on how am I going to be able to serve other people with this craft.
Like, how much time is that side hustle taking up of your life?
It wasn't a ton when I was at the trucking company. A big transition was from the trucking company, I got hired on at Corley Plumbing, Air, and Electric.
Ah, that's right. Okay.
As a pretty much like a customer service coach or a sales coach, just working with technicians on the personal side of the transaction with a homeowner.
Right.
Well, in that role, I was riding around with technicians all day long. So we were going in crawl spaces. I was like a plumber's assistant, essentially, which was great. I loved it. But like we're going in crawl spaces, we're going in attics, we're checking HVAC equipment, all of this. And I think at that point, mainly I just had my phone. But then, I mean, I'm sitting there watching a guy put in a water heater, and he's got all his parts. Like, I'm just standing there. So then I'm just like, all right, let me get this, and let me do this.
Because you're the guy that's going to break the news to the homeowner. You got to spend $3,000.
Yes, my role was training technicians. The deliverer of bad news.
That's right.
My role was training those technicians to be able to do that and do it in an empathetic way.
Right.
So I ended up being a tradesman's assistant for like 2 years. But I'm just out in the field with them, riding around in the trucks with a phone, and maybe eventually I took my camera. But that I loved those images. Like, I can still remember, you know, because guys are soldering. They're soldering on a copper pipe.
Yeah.
And that's where I started to be like, I really, really love this. And then they started using, you know, totally welcome to, like Corley. I started seeing my stuff on their Google My Business, and it was awesome. And then they'd use it in their social media. And I'm like, okay, this is validation.
Did you have any idea at that moment in time that you were going to start a business, or you just kind of like...
Still no. I still didn't.
Still didn't?
No, sir. No. Nope.
You're just, it's like, this is cool.
Yep.
I love doing this. This is like, my dad paints watercolors when he goes on vacation kind of thing.
Yeah. Felt super proud whenever they would use my photo.
Right.
And that was, again, validating and affirming. And then I went from there, after 2 years at Corley, I went to Habitat for Humanity. So then that's where, you know, that's an environment that there's lots of emotion. There's lots of beautiful moments. Like I was out at wall raisings, I was out at home dedications. Like these are very emotionally intense moments in a good way. And it was meshed with the construction piece because it's just like stud, you know, wooden stud framing and guys hammering and saws. And so similar to the Corley situation, I was out there with my camera or with my phone and then eventually my camera. And that was just like a perfect melding of like two things that I loved, which was like construction and trades and then the emotion of a beautiful event and like hugs and tears and all of that stuff.
Habitat, you're taking pictures. This is
yes.
Does the thing get lodged in your brain now? Maybe this is something I want to do.
I love.
What years of that? What years
so
are those?
This was 2016 until 2020.
Okay.
Was at Habitat, and I loved the role that I was hired for, and the role that I was hired for was pretty much an outside sales type of role.
Okay.
Go out and make relationships, have coffee and croissants with people, and build relationships so that
better people than this guy.
People with money.
That's right. That are giving things to people.
Yeah. So that was my job, and I loved it. But then it would be like, hey, Brian, there's a wall raising this morning at 9 o'clock. And I just kind of became sort of like the default photographer.
Right.
Because, I mean, there were several of us that could take photos, but I was loving it. And every event, I'd be like, hey, here's 40 images. And then those started to be used in social and on the web and stuff like that. Then I started CrossFit. This conversation had to get to CrossFit.
Right.
In some way. So I started CrossFit in 2019.
Okay.
Like middle of 2019.
Are you still a religious zealot for CrossFit? Or do you just work out for 30 minutes like normal people now?
That'll derail this interview. That's a 2-hour answer.
That's like people who are vegans, right? If you're a vegan or you do CrossFit, you just can't.
It's a great methodology. I just don't have time right now to do it because I went into entrepreneurship. That's where I first took my camera into a fitness setting. CrossFit gyms are dark and gritty and people are like deep in these just intense workouts.
Right.
And I'm photographing that and I'm like, man, this is really good. Like this is not my photos, but like this experience is incredible and very
Photographing
real.
me in the gym would not be fun because I'll walk, I take my time, there's no grit.
Do you
to me in the
sculpt?
gym.
Are you like a sculptor? Like
I do very slow.
Okay.
I don't want my heart rate to get above 100.
That's not
I get to the gym, right? I just check the box.
Check the box. So then there was there's what's called the CrossFit Open, which is sort of like all across the U.S. Everyone's doing the same workout.
Right.
So it's a time of camaraderie, celebration. A lot of the local gyms kind of amp that up a little bit. And
I did not know that was a thing.
It's really cool. They have music and just like there's a little more pomp and circumstances surrounding the workouts. So I take my camera to that, and then that was like, okay, I love this.
Yep.
And then I continued to shoot CrossFit, started to get hired by some of the gyms around the upstate, and then
so they want you to come in. I guess they're taking promo pictures of the people working out. Is that kind of how that worked, I guess?
Yes, I was at Potentia just working on the craft, just showing up, shooting workout after workout after workout at Potentia.
Yep.
Which was amazing. And then I remember I got hired by CrossFit Simpsonville to shoot. Actually, it would have been the next year's event after kind of a year of training or whatever.
At this point in time, how comfortable are you with the camera? Is it like second nature to you?
So shooting CrossFit got me pretty adept with the camera because it's extremely low light. It's very fast action. It's just a difficult sport to shoot. It's not easy.
Right.
It was good because I was kind of growing through that time. I was like, man, this is nearly impossible. It's very difficult to photograph. So I was getting better and better with the camera. And from shooting those CrossFit events, that's where the commercial opportunities started to come.
Okay.
So like the first one was a swim meet. Hey, my daughter has a swim meet. And can you come out and shoot that? What's your rate? And at that point, people just started saying, what is your price? Like they would call, hey, what's your price to come do this? What's your price? So I don't know. It's just kind of this like I drifted into this it was professional at some point.
Right.
It wasn't like I named a date and like at this point I'm charging. It just somehow it got to where people were saying, hey, what's your rate?
It's interesting to kind of think about the process of just hit me like you're still learning not only business, right, but like learning how to use this machine that's in my hands.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So what camera are you shooting on then for all the photographer people that?
Man, at that point it was a Nikon DSLR. It was the primarily the D7500, which I still have one of those bodies. But yeah, I mean, you can do a lot with a mid-grade to beginner camera. Yeah, you can do a lot. So
you're shooting these the gritty stuff.
Yeah.
Doing the CrossFit. When do you have this conversation with your wife? Like, I'm thinking about doing this, or where does that when it goes from when it goes from this commercial opportunities, like it starts to be real.
Yeah.
When do you think maybe I can do this full time? What is that? What's that progression like?
I think if you have a side hustle and you talk to the people around you, you'll find that they tend to fall in two camps. When you start describing your dream and talking about what you might want to do, there's two camps. One will say you should build your side hustle as high as you can up to your day job, salary, whatever, and just grow it as high as you can until you're max stress and you're just like, you can barely hang on to both.
Right.
Do that so that you have the security of just quickly jumping over to the side hustle. So there's that camp. The other camp is just jump.
Yeah.
And
both camps are very stressful.
Yeah.
Like one, you're stressing everything in your life.
You are.
And the other thing, you're stressing everything in your life because you
really
don't know if you're going to make any money.
Totally right. So picking the pain. I had people, friends and family, whatever, in kind of both camps.
Right.
So I was getting both of those. I was definitely more of the grow alongside of your day job as long as you can.
Right.
But that is stressful. It's very hard to have a side hustle.
Because you're going to work.
Yeah.
Getting home.
Yes.
And
kids.
You got your kids, right?
Yeah.
They take precedent. You got your wife.
Yep.
And then you've got Saturdays and Sundays when you probably or should be doing, in a perfect world.
Yeah.
You should be kids and
doing family
kids
stuff.
and wife.
Yep.
And
that's when the opportunities are.
Then you got to be. I know that when you take a picture, you just can't turn around and hand it to somebody. You got to spend some time with it. And so we keep talking about that. Like, how does that change inside the four walls of your house?
Good question. I had a capacity to work a lot. Like that didn't bother me or whatever, but it's more, what is that doing to your wife and to your kids and to your family? It's not noble to just work 16 hours a day. That's not a great accomplishment.
No.
So I was starting, as the side hustle was growing, that tension maybe is like what you're describing. Like when I maybe should have been home, I was out hustling for another gig.
Right.
And I definitely started to feel a cap on what I could do with the photography that was capped by the fact that I was at a day job.
Right.
And of course I'd be at my day job and I'd be thinking about, I should make a post over here for B Knox Photography, and oh, this potential customer just texted me. So in all honesty, that was kind of picking up, and I started to feel like I was a house divided at that point, where I'm like, man, the photography thing is capped. I'm sort of a little bit maybe cheating on my day job.
Yep.
And it did not feel right. And I was like, this just isn't good. So
this is 2019?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yep. So I was doing more and more events, getting a little more income, but I was passionate about growing the business as well. I liked the photography, but I loved when you start to get that traction. So I think, I was digging into books and podcasts and stuff like that. I really loved that. So by the end of 2019, latter half of 2019, I could tell something had to change for sure. And so I went kind of through my circle of friends and family and said, here's my dream. This is what I want to do. This is my track record. This is what I've earned, whatever. What do you think? And what I was hoping for, Brooks, was that people would go, no, Brian, you're crazy.
You're an idiot.
You're crazy. you need to stay with the stable job. You got to keep that job and those benefits, and man, you're making a difference at Habitat. And I kind of made the rounds, and every person in my life was going, I think you should go for it. There were degrees of like jump tomorrow or wait, 2 more months.
Right.
But basically everybody gave me a green light. And then I remember being on a phone call with my mom and dad. I share it with my mom and dad, and that's like a big one because, I'd gone to college and kind of gone the conventional path. And both of them, we think you should go for it. And so then I had green lights all around, which was really scary because then it's left to us as the entrepreneur,
human,
to make an internal decision for yourself. So at that point, then I started to have the conversations with Jen, and that was a series of like 5 or 6 conversations,
right.
long ones. But I think a turning point in those conversations was I was always coming at it from an economic perspective. I'd be like, I was trying to show her the money. Baby, look at this. Baby, look at this. Baby, look at this. And that felt good, but it's like it wasn't really advancing the conversation, I didn't feel like.
Okay.
And I had a friend, Holly, who was like, we would have these business conversations over coffee, and she was like, why don't you approach this from the emotional side and the side that like this is your dream and this is what you want to go do and this is your contribution. So the next time we had that conversation, sit down with Jen, baby, I feel like this is what I'm supposed to go do. And she's like, you should go do it.
Isn't that weird how it's like
just that simple.
The exact same conversation, just how everybody's different about what's going to appeal to that.
Yep.
Their sense of, oh, of course, then that's a no-brainer, right?
Yep.
Wow.
So that was the end of 2019. My boss was away in the Pacific Northwest where he goes for Christmas, like 3 weeks. 3 weeks he's gone. I come, yeah. We had like made the decision early December or whatever, but like basically I go back on January 1 knowing, January 1, 2020, knowing it's over, like I'm going to put in my notice. And I just got to wait for my boss to get back,
Were you looking at any news reports out of Wuhan at this point?
No, I was not.
It's like January 1, 2020.
I think round about mid-January, I was like, what is this thing we're hearing about, and
Right.
is it the end of the world?
Do you have any money, just to back up, do you have any money saved?
Okay, great question.
Like, how are you preparing for this to overcome this? I think you're very analytical in the process of, I can do this. Did you also plan to say, I have some money saved up in case I go to hell or go to shit?
Yes, good question. So, first of all, my wife did have a steady job.
Okay.
And I had the ability to go into my wife's benefits, which is huge. If you're considering starting a dream, that's helpful. Then I had a big run in rental real estate. Because I was trying to like have another source of income.
Mailbox money.
Whatever. Trying to have another source of income. And it was the rental that I had in Fountain Inn was depleting my soul. I had a terrible tenant. It went bad. But I had bought the house from a wholesaling friend of mine, Chris Fox, and he helped me buy low on that house. And so I was a sheer just beneficiary of the Greenville housing market in that by 1 year later, the house had increased, $20,000 or whatever. Chris is telling me, do not sell this house. You hold on to this house. This is your ticket to wealth or whatever.
Right.
And I'm like, bro, I am done. I'm done. I do not care about any future money that this house would bring. I'm out. So I sell the house, and he goes, the words he told me were, you should take that money and go start a CrossFit gym, which was fine.
Right.
But the sentiment of what he was saying was, you now have a little bit of a runway to go and pursue a dream of some sort.
Right.
And that really like planted that seed of, okay, yeah, I actually have a little bit of money here to weather the hills and valleys.
So his little advice about what to do with that money kind of was wait a minute, I can do this.
Yeah. And I was 40, 41 at the time, and you're like, what the heck am I doing with my life? Am I just going to be a corporate guy?
I'm just building Habitat for Humanity houses. I'm not doing anything for the world.
That was good, but guys are wrestling with like, is this all I'm going to do? So boss comes back. He's like, hey, comes back from the Pacific Northwest. Let's go grab tea or coffee and catch up on just like where work stuff is. and we're in the Habitat parking lot. I'm in the car, we're about to drive off to the coffee shop. He opens his door, and I'm like, we gotta talk. And he's like, what, is everything good? And I'm like, I gotta go try the photography thing.
That sounds like the conversation a lot of women had with me in my earlier lives before we go in. We've got to talk.
We gotta talk. His butt had not even hit
That's right. We've got to talk.
And I was like,
what have I done?
I gotta go do this. And I remember the trip to the coffee shop just being a blur of me just like spilling everything that was inside of like why I should go do this. And then my boss too was like, I support you. I think this is awesome. And go for it. So, yeah.
That is fantastic. So you got some money, not necessarily saved.
Yeah.
So you hadn't been jockeying, you hadn't been putting away like $10 here, $10 there, with the sole purpose of opening your business.
I had done a little bit of that, and I think that's excellent advice. Like when you're side hustling, you don't bring that into the family income or the household income.
Right.
If you can hold off from doing that, set it aside.
Don't count it.
No, build that hills and valleys
Or
fund.
count it, just don't count it.
Count it, but don't put it in.
Yeah.
So build up that fund.
Right. When do you push away from the dock?
February 14th,
February 14th.
2020.
Wow.
Just before.
Just weeks before.
5 weeks before.
Before everybody goes and is afraid to be around each other.
Yeah.
Which you need for your business.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And the first thing that started canceling was events. And
Right.
the events just, I remember thinking, it's not going to happen to me. This will be short-lived. Like, everything's going to go great. And then just like, event canceled. And man, I was.
So you
yeah.
so you push off away from the dock 14th of February. Do you have, I guess you already have stuff lined up.
I
You've
did
been
have
working
some,
side
yes.
hustle. So when you
Yes.
push off from the dock, you
Yeah.
have, let's say, 10 things probably
I
booked
did.
out, right?
Yes.
And so you can see where the income can come from.
Yeah.
And then the shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
How does that go? Like,
Oh man.
take me through that.
Well, first of all, it gave me a chance to work on my website because the entire country closed for 60 days.
Yeah.
But, man, I don't even know. It was just, I was definitely anxious. I was scared. And then in the time that we were all sitting at home on our laptops, I had, back to the conversations with Holly, the business conversations, I had started what was called a network of 90. I think it's from Book Yourself Solid or something.
Okay.
It's not my idea, but the network of 90, the network of 100. But I put the network of 250, and you're building a list of the people who not only they're not necessarily potential clients, but they believe in you, they trust your work, they've seen your work, they're pulling for you. And so I'm sitting there with a Google sheet, and I make my list of 250.
Is that Gary V, raving fans,
Yeah.
similar kind of idea?
Just all the people who had been cheering me on.
Right.
I'm making that list. And then in quarantine, I would send them a text. I would send them a DM. How you doing? What's going on? How's life? And I was just like building relationships.
That's genius.
It was all I knew to do. And that was that, and I would walk laps in our neighborhood and just get on the phone and just call people. But I was building that pool of close relationships.
Right.
And then, yeah, some of those conversations turned to business.
Right.
Hey, when the country opens up, I need you to come and shoot website shots or branding shots or whatever it was. And so then I start keeping track of that in a CRM or a sales database. Like, okay, I need to follow up with Summit Janitorial in 2 months. So like I did shift to starting to think about like, okay, when we open back up,
Yep.
how am I going to run this business? And it was the relationships that I built and fostered in those 2 months, Brooks, that like, I remember the date was May 18th, when the whole like, gyms can open, a restaurant, May 18th. And I was flooded with business, absolutely flooded. I couldn't even handle it.
So in those 2 months, are you thinking, have I screwed the pooch here? Are you thinking, I'm going to call my boss back at Habitat? Can I get my job back?
It's a great question. And I did wrestle with that because I loved the guy that had taken taken over my position. And I remember thinking,
so you didn't there wasn't a job to go back to, I guess. Right?
No, there wasn't. It was filled in, man. That thing was backfilled.
I was hoping the pandemic was like good.
Nope, it was backfilled.
Oh, no, okay.
But I remember thinking, like, would I rather be in his position or my position? Because now I had the ability to make decisions and go earn income any way that I wanted to.
Right.
And I knew I would work, like I'd find work. That wasn't really, I guess, a question. But yeah, I was.
Except during those 2 months, it was like,
yeah.
How long is this going to last?
I was scared. None of us knew.
Yeah.
We had no idea. We didn't know how long it was going to go.
It's wild, right? I mean,
It was. And in the weeks before I had jumped, I was listening to podcasts and trying to like gear up for the jump. And one of the podcasts I listened to said, the only way through fear is massive action, which is kind of a cliche, the term or whatever. But I was like, I feel fear. I'm definitely scared.
Yeah.
But the drug that will numb that fear is massive action. And so that just is what I leaned on.
Man, that's crazy. All of the work that you did in those 2 months, almost in hindsight, it was probably a blessing that you were not able to do a lot of work and work on your website, get a plan.
Yes. Yep.
That's
you can build the framework for your business, because when you go out on your own, no matter what your service or your offering to the world is, you've got to be building the business framework as well. You need to have a sales database. You have to have your contacts organized. You need to have a calendar. You need to get your accounting in line and know how you're going to split up $1 when you get $1. You need to. It helps set you up for success.
I remember when we were going through that. For us, the phone didn't ring for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. And that was luckily we had cases that were ongoing.
Sure.
We do all contingency fee work, so the cases that come in the door today pay in a year and a half.
Yeah.
So I didn't really feel any of the constraints until this year.
I see what you mean. It was delayed.
Yeah, it was the weird cycle time in what we do, but I can't imagine. What's your wife during that period of time? Is she? Are y'all just like gung ho, supportive? This is amazing, or is this like, honey, did you make a mistake?
I do remember. Am I okay? Am I clear?
You're good, buddy.
I remember.
If one goes like this on mine, they'll
It is
slow-mo.
cold. Man, it's cold out here. I remember as the reports of coronavirus continued to roll in and continued to get worse, I remember one night before a huge construction shoot. It was one of the biggest opportunities that I had had. I was on as a second shooter, but this was the first one of like, Brian, this is a decent paycheck. Bring all your gear and bring your A game. And it was that night, the night before.
Is this your gig, or is this like an independent contractor? Somebody's brought you in?
Yes, sir.
To come?
Yep.
Okay.
So he had secured my first shooter had secured the job.
Yeah, okay.
I was the second shooter. Hey, I'll give you a chance. It's in your field. It's what you love.
Awesome.
And I was on my own. And I remember that night, I was doom scrolling the coronavirus stuff. And it's like, world shuts down, economy crashes. And I remember thinking, I'm gonna need to go drive an Amazon delivery truck, or I'm gonna go work at Aldi. Like Aldi was hiring. I gotta go to the grocery store, but this dream is over. That every photographer who was photographing weddings, I was like, they're gonna be in the market. We're all in the same, like, there's no more weddings, there's no more events. Everyone's just gonna be competing for the same small pieces of pie of business out there.
Yep.
And I don't think I slept that night, and like, so I drank a ton of coffee and probably went on adrenaline. Shoot went great. It was awesome. Loved it.
When is this? Is this in May?
No, it would have been, man, I can't remember. This was
Later in the year?
I remember everybody on that shoot being depressed because it was hitting all of us.
Right.
And like even the proprietor of the company, they had come back afterwards and been like, we know everyone seemed off. And it was like everybody was wrestling with, what in the hell is going to happen?
Yeah.
And so like it wasn't a jovial shoot. It was very,
No.
it was very, it was morose in a way. But the shoot went great. It was construction. I loved it. So anyways, that paid, and then I was able to keep gigs coming in through 2020, just again through the network of relationships that I had made. Then everything was switching to digital, and so all of a sudden your digital presence was more important. You needed to be on social media. You needed to be on Instagram. You needed your website to look good. That was all that we had.
Yeah,
So
there's no kissing hands and shaking babies. Right?
No, you said that wrong. No, there was none of that. There was none. There were no events to shoot. Everything was shut. So, but then it would be like, I mean, everyone had to upgrade. At that point, everyone had to upgrade their online presence, and that means fresh imagery.
Yeah. So what's life like now? Like, what is the business like now? Are you?
Oh, great, man. 2020 was excellent. I kind of made the financial goals that I wanted to make.
Right. Okay.
I was able to provide for my family, which was was my main goal that first year. And then, what is this, 2021? Holy cow, it's been great. I mean, success, good, booked like crazy, and it's all just come from making sure to over-deliver to the people that hire me, do a good job, be good at the craft, but also be good at the business side of it and the personal side of it. And it's mostly been word of mouth and posting to social media.
What's giving you the biggest difficulty right now?
Turning off the hustle. I mean, I see posts from a year ago that I made about turning off the hustle. And I'm like,
right, yeah.
I'm still struggling with that.
Yeah, that's the tough thing about being
Still
an entrepreneur,
struggling
right?
with
Like there's always these
Yes.
things percolating in your head.
Yes.
Looking back on where you've gone through and all this stuff, what do you attribute all this to? Lucky, good,
I'm
badass, fall into it?
Man, I'm hippie enough to think that most of us have a superpower or a gift of some sort that we're meant to put out into the world.
Right.
And I know I could have made more money with real estate. I'm sure I could have probably continued on that path, but that wasn't my calling. Like, that wasn't what I knew I was put here to do. I was put here to empower people by taking badass images of them, their company, their craft, their organization, whatever it was. That I knew that, and I knew that if I deviated from that, it wasn't great. And I think we should look within ourselves, find what we're great at, and then go into that thing full force. And I do think there's a way to monetize it for most people, and you can monetize it without nullifying or getting rid of the warm fuzzy side of it.
Right.
You know, it can be done.
I listen to all these podcasts and watch all these shows, and they're just so boring.
Yeah.
And I think it's because there's just no story to the process. There's no it's just disparate questions that are coming all over the place. And you know, I want people to know, like, there's no one way to do this, as far as like being a business owner or whatever, right? But like, it's not everybody has, like, I like how your story is this kind of process of realizing I love photography.
Yeah.
I can make a little money on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
To, like, I really don't like taking these family photos where they're posed in front of the Olin Mills retractable back or whatever. To, oh, wait a minute, I can take pictures of people living their life and then giving those pictures back to those people.
Yep.
All the way to, maybe I'll leave my job, right? Like, some people might have this great plan, like, I'm gonna go start a software company. Yeah. Other people are like, I really like making these baskets, and all of a sudden they're or making candles or taking photos or whatever. You know, it's a.
I think people will feel that pull of the warm and fuzzy side of, like, contributing to humanity or contributing to an organization or to a person, making them feel good. You'll feel that, and that you should give credence to that not just the economics. So I was looking at the economics. Can I make whatever the number per week? Can I make?
That's all you were doing originally, right? That's all your thought process was. Can I make this money?
Can I make this money? But then I definitely started to feel that my bigger contribution to the world was through photography.
Yeah.
And then it was through what I was doing, whether it's making pastries or whatever it is, like that should also pull you. It shouldn't be looked at in isolation of the dollar bills.
That's Holly's advice, right? That's Holly's advice.
That's my advice.
Well, that was Holly's advice to you. Go use that angle with your wife, right?
Yeah, true. You're right.
Yeah, you were trying to say like, well, I've made $10,000, honey. I should be able to do this.
Yes.
It'll be fine. You'll be fine.
The way it was, the way it was put to me by Holly was, when you put in your 2-week notice at Habitat for Humanity, you'll be replaced in 2 weeks at that job. Someone else will go have coffee with people and make relationships, and someone does do that. She was like, what you have the chance to offer the world and put out to people around you, and how you can influence the lives around you, is unique to you, and that can't be replaced. And once I had that told to me, I was messed up. I was pretty wrecked. So I couldn't get that out of my brain, couldn't get it out, and that's what,
That's good.
Kind of.
That's a good advice.
Got it going.
Yeah.